I know more about my cat genealogy than I know about myself.
So in the last episode, we mostly did a follow-up episode to introduce our feedback section where we read everything you posted on Gmail, Reddit, or Twitter at Not Daily Podcast everywhere. But in the opening, we talked about how I trained a machine learning corpus on myself and on authors that I like. And I have a tweet from Gilles who picked up on this point, and in particular the point about like what this raises for copyright. And he showed me something that kind of blew my mind a little bit. So, have you ever heard of the waifu generator project?
No.
Maybe I should start by that. It's people in machine learning who've trained an algorithm on a corpus of anime image and maybe fan art. I'm not sure. So that they can generate anime girls, like new generative model, like anime girls that nobody's seen before. So it's like, oh, your own waifu that nobody has seen before. And so these guys were at Anime Expo, and Gilles showed me they made a vending machine of waifus. So you arrive, you put like the money in, it processes, I think it asks you a couple of questions to customize your waifu, and then it randomizes, like it gives you a newly generated anime girl that nobody's seen before, and prints it. So you would print, like you would buy a printed art book in a convention for like I think $5 in the US, and sell that. So there's already people selling generated content.
But is that only a picture, or like there's a description as well?
I think it's a picture. Maybe they generate the name, but that's not very hard. But that doesn't change anything to the point, right?
Yeah, clearly not. I just wanted to know.
I was very surprised to see that they went this far already, because I mean, like, it's a bit dubious, right, to make money off of that. They don't own the training set. The training set is from Academy, and you're not surprised.
I'm not that surprised. Like, I'm not that surprised. If we're good enough, like, I don't know, last time when you showed like your text, like it was good enough to say that it's kind of art, and as long as like it's art, you can sell it, I guess. So I'm not that surprised that someone would sell it. And like compared that to the copyright thing, I think art is like generative on some stuff that you've seen before. Still, like even for like artists that do it themselves, like it just generative process and like what you've learned and what you've been taught. So I don't think that's completely insane. There's still work involved, like they work on the algorithm, they like try to make it look good. So as long as their work, it has value, I guess, and like Marx thanks Marx, and so you can sell your work.
I guess, yeah. Maybe the weird point in it is the relationship between art and money in the end. It's all fine and good until you throw in like private property and copyright into the mix, and these are the hard concepts, not the art that you're making. Right?
Yeah, but like I really feel like that. I'm really not sure that in a court, because like copyright law are very simple. Like it's very complicated, but it's based on a very simple principle, and so you are using some stuff, but it's not shown in the algorithm. Like you can remove your training set from your algorithm. Like once the algorithm is made, like the actual training set doesn't really exist anymore. So like for a copyright lawyer to win that case, I think it would be like very, very hard.
It's interesting, yeah. That's a good point. I like that. I like looking at it that way. Maybe we should move on. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, I only have one feedback, and the feedback, so a friend of mine started the podcast with the feedback episode. So obviously it was a bit of a weird experience for her. She was like, no, I really liked it, but it was a bit weird to follow. So when you start, like basically when you start our podcast with like the feedback episode, first you're a bit lost, like what the fuck are they talking about? And also what's interesting is when you're doing feedback in a podcast, you can answer Like you can answer a feedback of your last podcast, but in the next podcast you can also, for example, right now, like just before that, we talked about like copyright law, and then on that thought we can have like feedback and we can talk about that, and like 100 episodes in the down the line we can also talk about copyright.
Yes, we absolutely can, but I think we should try not to, otherwise it's gonna have like the sagas of feedback that are gonna be pretty hard to follow. I think as much as possible we should keep the feedback to the last episode or the episode.
To the main question?
Well, one episode to the other, right? And then maybe we can discuss it further on Reddit or whatever, but it's gonna be super confusing for listening. I think obviously you need to bind ourselves a little bit so that we don't get too crazy.
So by the way, I just bought a new cat, and it's called Hummus, or Hummus, or Hummus, or Hummus.
Hummus.
When I'm a bit frustrated by it, like I'm calling him Hummus.
Does he understand your tone when you're frustrated?
Well, I only have it for like the last week, so right now he doesn't really know me, but it's getting there. Like I changed his name, he's 1 year old, so I'm changing his name just by not mentioning his old name. It was called Oriflamme before, and I'm not calling my cat Oriflamme.
Well, that is pretty, I don't know.
It sounds like a fire Pokemon from like
yes,
the
exactly.
12th generation.
Exactly.
Like no.
It's a lot. It's like very much.
Yeah.
I don't know what, but it's much that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's too much. So you went for diet food.
So diet food. Like it goes into the last Hummus Mochi Tofu, all food. So it's like continuing the series. So I'm happy with that. The only thing that like I really wanted to tell you is I didn't realize how big a Maine Coon is. So I really wanted a big cat.
Is he a tiger?
But I really thought that like, okay, that was a bit big. All my old cats were quite big. Like Tofu is a fat cat, Mochi was a big cat, not fat. But like this Hummus is just gigantic. He's not big, like he's 8 kilos.
Did he finish his growth?
No, so usually like what you see on the internet is like they grow until 3. So I've asked my vet, I was like, are you sure 3 seems a lot? And she told me like basically it will still grow for 6 months, and after that it should kind of stop.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
This kind of like a standard size.
But the thing is, his father was 15 kilos, so he has room to grow. So I thought all my old cat stuff could be used for him, and nothing can be used for him. I didn't realize how big it would be. So, for example, the litter box, he wouldn't use the litter box for the first 5 days because he couldn't just like enter it. So I need to buy a new litter box. But the thing is, because Maine Coons are not that common, everything is made for small cat. And when it says like huge cat, it's like 5 to 6 kilos.
Yeah. I mean, it's because it's very rare, so...
Yeah. But everything is so expensive. Like, insanely expensive. Like, the litter box, the huge litter box for my cat, costs like $60. And it's not a fancy one. It's literally just a box. But because it needs to be that big, and like they sell like 10 a year, then it's $60. But like, yeah, my budget for my cat has just completely
skyrocketed. Plus, you have at the beginning it's always the worst time because you have all the settle down expenses.
So yeah, so that's my story about my new cat. Well, and like semi-parental, I think a cat is the best thing. Plain awesomeness.
Well, maybe there's cats. Like maybe theoretically there could be cats that you regret buying, but I haven't had this experience.
With my old cat, it was a bit too much. Like, he was waking me up. He was like asking way too much attention. Like, so it was a bit much, but I never regretted it.
Yeah.
Each time he comes and like gives you a meow and like give you a little like paw thingy and like you pet him, it's just so...
Yeah, but maybe I can conceive of the existence of cats who don't do any of this. And just because I haven't seen one doesn't mean...
Oh, stop. I want you to talk about something about the cat that I forgot about. I think it's like one of the funniest thing. So my cat doesn't know how to drink water. And basically, so he has like a bowl of water. And each time he pours around it and then pours in it and then drink, but doesn't drink like at the border of the bowl. Like he puts his whole head in the bowl, so it's full of water and there's water everywhere in my flat. And so I was like, what the fuck is happening there? So I looked online,
yeah,
and I want to talk about that because like it's based on his race. So, like, Maine Coon come from the state of Maine and looks like raccoon. So that's why it's called, like, Maine Coon.
Oh, okay.
And in Maine, usually there's ice, sometimes in the year. And when there's ice, like, the cat, like, actually, like, pour the, like, snow and then put his paw in the snow for it to melt, and then he drinks it.
Oh, it's cute.
And so he's doing that every day, not knowing how to drink, putting water everywhere. And then he looks at me like, oh, there's water everywhere. And so, like, it's the cutest thing. But what I wanted to talk about and what's fucked me up a bit is all this behavior. Because, like, it's kind of a complicated behavior. And it fucked my mind that, like, this is encoded, like, in the gene.
In the genes, yeah. I mean, there's crazy amount of stuff encoded in the genes that are very weird, right? Like the way they play with the strings, etc. It comes from snakes, and like there's very complex information encoded there that you have innate knowledge of. For your precise water problem, though, I just want to say maybe you should use running water. Cats usually don't like stale water.
I know, but I can't bear the noise.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah.
It's like a Zen fountain. I love it.
No, but like I am very, very... Like at home, there's always a weird background noise. 95% of the time I have my headphones on.
Okay.
I just can't bear like background noise.
This episode is brought to you by tennis. Do you like hitting small yellowish bouncy balls with vaguely circular shaped objects? Well, you're in luck, because that's exactly what tennis is. So give it a shot. We wanted to talk about a bit of media to switch things up a little bit, and more precisely an anime series that came out during spring 2019, so a couple of months ago, by director Ikuhara, that a lot of people know from Revolutionary Girl Utena or Mawaru Penguin Drum. So don't look at me like that. So
who knows it? Okay,
I want this podcast to speak to a large diversity of audience, and a lot of people care about that. I'll have you know. So Ikuhara is famous for using a lot of symbolism and dealing with identity and a lot of stuff that Sarazanmai does get into, and we'll get into that. First, I think we'll try to get a very brief summary to catch people up. I strongly recommend you see it before watching this episode, because we are gonna spoil everything. And I consider it to be a great show, so I would recommend you go there first.
So it's only 11 episodes, 20 minutes per episode. It's not very binge-watchable, to be honest. I've binge-watched it. It was not that great. It was a great show, but it was not that great to binge. So I would consider to like linger in and like watch one episode per day or something.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it was conceived. And Ikuhara is the kind of person who really leverages every piece of meta-information he can have about the series. So this show came out with a side manga, that a prequel side manga and an actual side manga during the run.
I didn't know that.
The industry constrains him to 11 episodes because that's the format nowadays. People don't invest in longer terms. So he squeezed out of all the marketing materials the possibility, the narrative possibilities. And so he's really, really aware of what he's doing. So I think he planned it to be a weekly show. But anyway, why do we care about this show?
So why are we talking about anything in that podcast? It's just, it seems interesting to us as like a concept or as an object of idea. And right now I've never talked about a show or like art or like a piece of art or right now we're talking about an anime. And it seems to us that like it was an interesting show. So it's an interesting anime. Anime, for people who don't know, is basically a cartoon, like a Japanese cartoon. And this one tried to criticize some really interesting things about like our capitalistic society. And so we saw that like, and for you, and I think it would be a bit different why it's like interesting or not, but we saw that it would be an interesting thing to talk about.
I mean, there's definitely a lot of meat to dig, like conceptual meat to dig in it. If that makes any sense. Okay, with that out of the way, brief summary. Should I try?
Go for it.
It's not very easy to explain,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
even less in brief. But so this is a show about the myth of Kappa, which is a legendary myth in a mythological creature in Japan, who are kind of frog-like creatures who, long after, I think the myth is like human desire, the life seed of human, and they find it in human's butt under the form of a ball called Shirikodama. So this is the mythology, okay? We haven't started with the anime yet. And so the anime is about three boys called Kazuki, Toi, and Enta, who get kind of enrolled by the Kappa King to fight the Otter army. So you have these armies of Kappas and Otter who fight each other. The Kappa tend to be associated with light and the Otters with dark, but we'll go into that. And so the Otters constantly try to leverage the lust of some people. So the energy desire in the original text is yokubo, for people who understand Japanese. So they try to make use of that, and the Kappa side tries to counter that. So they steal the Shirikodama back. And they do that by exposing and bringing to light the most repressed secrets. The first half of the series is focused on the character growth of Kazuki, which is kind of the main character, and in particular, his relationship with his little brother. So all the characters have a dirty little secret that they keep, that they don't want the world to know. And so the first half of the series is about Kazuki, his complex relationship with his brother, which he somehow resents because Kazuki was adopted, if I remember correctly, right?
I'm not sure it's because of that, but like we can.
And I'm trying to keep things simple and quick. And the second half of the series is about the whole Kappa versus Otter dialectic. Wow, starting with the big words already. And about the three boys coming together. They discover that they knew each other in the past. They all have a dirty secret. So Toi's dirty secret is that he's killed a man, and Enta's dirty secret is that he has a crush on Kazuki. Which brings me to my main question for you. Who's the best boy?
Before... Yeah, but like, I like...
Just say you don't have a favorite, don't make that face.
No, because like, I don't like, and I think I have no thought about what you like or what you don't like, weirdly. But I don't like the useless guy, like I don't remember his name, the guy that has a crush on the main character.
Enta?
I don't like Enta. So what's the three name? Enta, blah blah, and Toi?
Enta, Toi, and Kazuki. But you can say crush guy, killer guy, and brother guy if you want. I'm never really good with names.
So I don't like Enta because I don't like what he's doing, like his action. And each time it's like, shut up and don't do that. Kazuki is like meh, like doing his stuff, he makes sense. And I like Toi, but I don't know why. And I think like it doesn't make sense.
Because it's so cool.
Do we want to go directly into the nitty-gritty?
I think we can still stay a little bit light if you tell me like what you like or didn't like about it. Like what you think about the ending. A lot of people were surprised because this director is not very used to happy endings. It's almost too happy.
It's happy without being happy, though.
It's bittersweet.
So first it's bittersweet a bit, and secondly, like the thing is like I didn't rewatch the first episode, so I'm not 100% sure of what I'm gonna say. But I feel like in the first episode, you're watching Kazuki, the main character, going around with a box, like with the Amazon box, which is called like whatever, Kappa box. And there's something in the box. And in the whole show, it talks a lot about relationship and like desire and blah blah blah. It doesn't talk a lot about small desire of like objects, but there's still a denunciation of that in the form of like this Amazon that is everywhere and like that is giving object, and like this person that just say basically every day buy something. And in the last episode, you still have that one person that say like buy something. You still have that ad in the street. So you still have those small desires that is against like your real desire, basically. They're just feeling like a void that doesn't really do anything.
And so you're upset about you don't like that. You don't like this part.
No, I'm not. I'm not upset. I think I would have preferred people dying.
So we're stepping into the meat. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is this dialectic between these two types of desire, right? You have the lust for the worldly desire of material objects that is very well represented by the box. That is the theme of an episode every week at the beginning. So this is the side that I feel is represented by the author empire that tries to leverage this lust energy. And as opposed to that side, you have this so-called quote-unquote true desire that you're supposed to power through the little desire to focus on what you really, really, really want. Zig zig I. The true desire supposedly represented by the Kappa Empire that powers through, like, you're supposed to kill the little desire to focus on the light side. That's the dialectic they present in the first 6 episodes.
Yes, which I'm not really like. That's one part that I was a bit confused about, like all the author empire stuff. What like people that like are listening to the show needs to know is that like this director like reads Lacan. Lacan is like a French psychoanalyst. It's very much influenced by like Lacan work. And I'm a bit like, there's no such thing as real desire being love. So that's why I don't really understand. And I'm not sure it's a mistake. And so I'm not sure what the author wants to do, to be honest.
The whole point of the ending is that this idea of pure love as opposed to small desire is wrong, right? I think. Well, we'll come back to that later.
Like, let's take the first 5 episodes in a vacuum, because I think it's easier.
Yeah.
So if we take the first 5, each episode, like the first like 4 or 5 episodes, it's a very kind of straightforward show. So there's one person that have a TV show that say, today we're gonna take pleasure in having a selfie with an object. So it can be like a ball, it can be like anything, like a bottle of water, it can be whatever you like can imagine.
And it's the portrayal makes it very connected to today's society, right? With the selfie, the Amazon box, like everything points to our society.
And then something happened. And then there's these like bad guys that like portrayed bad guys that are cops.
The author. That
basically try to find someone that have a weird kind of desire with this capitalistic object. So for the balls, it's like this guy wants to be kicked in the ball by his like mistress.
It's often sexual.
It's often super sexual. So by putting that desire in light in front of, by exhibiting that desire, the problem which I never understood is solved somehow. Like this part I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah, I guess this is kind of like exposure therapy 101, like a toy version of exposure therapy, like put yourself face to what you refuse to see, like to your hidden side, and accept it.
So because what is shown is basically that like this secret is the object like small a of Lacan.
I think that's the exact opposite. I think the secret prevents you from, like, shields the object little a of Lacan. So it's the point maybe where you need to explain what is object little a in a few sentences.
So object little a in a few sentences. Super fast. Basically, you're born, you're in your mother, and like everything is perfect. Like the world is perfect, you're one with the world, like everything is nice and like you're happy.
Would you say everything is connected?
Everything is connected. Literally everything is connected. Everything is you is everything, like you're happy. Then you're born, you suck the teeth of your mother, everything is nice, you're still connected, there's still the world is you, your mother is you is your mother, everything is perfect. Still. Then your mother is like, fuck that shit, I need to do like my life, I have a life. So she leaves to do some stuff. And then what's happening is that you feel bad for the first time in your life. You're like, fuck, life is not perfect, oops. And like you're not a whole anymore, you're just something that is missing something else.
You have would you say you have a lack, you're missing something.
Yeah, you're missing something. Then you see yourself in the mirror and you're like, what is this thing? And you're like, oh fuck, that's me. So then like you're even more disconnected with everyone else, and like it's the first time that like you are you, and like you are like awake of like your like individuality as like a person. And that fucks you up because being individual is not nice. Like it's like harder than just like being in a perfect world where like you're everything.
I mean, yeah, it's being individual because you're disconnected, because you're isolated. Being individual means being isolated, being disconnected from the rest. So that's so you're constructing yourself in opposition of the like by lack.
And this lack create desire. And this desire of like fulfilling this lack, yeah, you live with this lack of like, fuck, I'm not one with everything. And you desire to like come back to that life of like being in your mother womb.
And idealize the whole past.
You idealize the whole and like you live your life wanting to like just fill the gap. And the gap, so after that, like the gap is called object petit a.
But the object petit a is the state of wholeness that you want to return to but never get to.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the actual gap.
Well, the gap or what you fill it with. The thing that's not there anymore, but that you're lacking. And that can never be there, kinda. I don't know. Maybe.
But the thing is, we need to understand, like, to continue the discussion, that, like, object petit a is not a real object. It can't exist.
I mean, yeah, it's the state of being in your mother uterus. So to bring it to a simple example, like, I want to reframe it in Sarazanmai terms, and you tell me if I'm messing up everything. So the object petit a discussion is very important. Well, intriguing in Sarazanmai because you have a symbol. Well, those of you who don't speak Japanese, you won't know at all, but the symbol that looks like a circle with a scribble inside, it's a Japanese letter for A, and you see it all over, like the pink circle. So there is a fan theory that hasn't been confirmed as far as I know that this represents in some way object petit a. But so what you are saying before as like object petit a is not an actual object. I perceive it in the fact that the author and the lust thing is focused on actual worldly objects. So the whole yokubo lust author part go after worldly objects, and in opposition to that you have this supposedly like true object petit a desire, and I think that's what the kappa are supposed to represent. And you see this duality between like I'm not gonna say short-term pleasure, but worldly desire and like deeper desire everywhere. You see it, especially in the titles of the episodes, who are all like, I want to connect, but some things. Like, I want to connect, like, I want my object petit a, but worldly desire. So the whole dialectic at the beginning, I feel represents this tension between the object petit a and worldly desire by putting them in strict opposition, by the way. I don't know if it's like fair to Lacan or...
What's a bit weird or missing, so you have that person at each episode in the first 5 that is completely filled with like that one lust, to not call it desire, to like simplify the discussion, can destroy the world basically. Like what I felt when I see that is that this one desire of being kicked in the ball was feeling the guy. This guy is a guy that wants to be kicked in the ball. Like, he's fully filled by that
You
thing.
think it's his object petit a and not his object of small desire, like lust, like small worldly desire, yokubo?
Recently I read Sartre, which fucked me a bit about like my thinking about human being. I feel that it can be even like a harder stance of what, and that's why I was saying that like it's a denunciation of what the capitalistic world do to people. It completely remove object petit a to become lust. But the thing is, like, I think that the gap that is in your like mind, Sartre says néant, like the nothingness, doesn't exist anymore.
But then
they die.
So you think Right? You can fill the gap of object petite with bullshit, with trash, with garbage.
It's not filled, it disappears.
To the point that they are dehumanized. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm reading, the thing is I'm reading something that is purely like Lacanist with Sartre, which doesn't work that much. But what I'm saying is they lose the prospect of filling that void because they're not even wanting to fill that void. There's just that desire of, because it's always perversion. Perversion in Lacan, and like that's where I'm like a bit like lacking of like knowledge, and I haven't read Lacan for like a while.
It's okay.
I think that like Lacan perception of like everyone is a pervert in Lacan, but like perversion is access to reality. And with access to reality, you don't like object petite is purely like symbolism and imaginary. It's not real. There are people that live in reality and like all their and the desire that like is shown in the thing, like being kicked in the ball, like whatever, is always completely real. And like that's why like they can be removed. Sartre is saying is basically there's people in life that are, in French, trop plein d'être, which are just like,
too full.
Which feels that nothingness with like objects.
And you're like psychologically dead. Yeah. Yeah, so the kappa zombies are a very good representation of that, I think. I'd like to give a shout out to our sponsor, Stairs. If you'd like to go to a different altitude from the one you're currently on, and you're not able to fly, Stairs is a time-proven way to do so. Stairs' efficiency and simplicity of use has made it the number one way to travel vertically for ages. Stairs. Maybe we should move on a bit to the ending, because I think it's a nice segue into it. Because during the first part, you always have this dualist opposition between worldly desire and the kappa that fight that, and presumably I don't know, that's how I perceived it. Like they are after the one true desire, like the object petite a, and like saying like, no, you're wrong to go after this worldly desire. But it turns out that the ending is, I think, pretty surprising in the fact that the good guys turned out not to be right. The kappa, it's revealed that the whole conflict is because of the kappa denying their own like dark side, which created the empire, the Otter Empire. So in a way, it comes from them. The whole problem comes from them not accepting their worldly desire and idolizing this object petite a. And so the ending is in a way, well, you tell me if you have a completely different perception, but a reconciliation where basically it's like, oh, accept yourself, accept your flaws, accept your lust, and accept your lacks, and everything's gonna be fine, essentially. And that's why it's a happy ending. But it's like to be fully human, you need to have this lust and this gap, and you'll never feel object petite. What do you think? What did you think of the ending?
I think like there's one underlying thing that we haven't talked about, and I can't talk about the ending without that, is like actual love. Because I don't think Lacan, when he talks about object petite, is like talking about love at all. Yes and no, meaning like, yeah, love has something to do with object petite, like the famous sentence, like love is giving to someone something that he doesn't want and that you don't have. That you don't have is object petite, But what's troubling me in that is that all the show is about like love.
In opposition to lust. Yeah. But I think it's a deliberate, like, blurred metaphor. Like they equal like pure true love with pure true connection, with fill the gap of object petite in the show, which might not be like the truth, but like
but also what's troubling me first, like love is very, I'm not sure why, but like there's no woman in that show.
The reason is that the director mostly focused on woman identity before and wanted to change a little bit and focused on boy. I mean, there is women always in the lust part, in the lust fantasies.
No, but like that's why I want to talk about, because I realized that after like quite a while, like after 7, 8 episodes. And what's interesting is like you follow, and like it's kind of like with the Platonicist love, meaning like you follow these three little guys that are in love with each other. You follow these two authors that are in love with each other. What's interesting is in Platon, like the pure love is homosexuality love.
Yeah, so there's definitely like a parallel here. There's definitely something here. I think this is meant to not blur the picture with like traditional love, like to make it clear that it's about objectivity. Okay. Anyway, did you want to say something in particular about love?
Maybe it's using homosexuality to say like, okay, we're talking about like love versus like lust / desire / object. Okay. To get real love, during all the episode, you have love, which is like the pure, perfect form of love.
Yeah, the connection.
Yeah, the pure, perfect connection can't exist. Like, it doesn't exist. Like, there's no pure form of love. And like in the first part, it's about pure form of love. And like when the little child, like the Kazuki's little brother, is judged as like pure love, basically. But this pure love isn't complete, meaning it's a one-way love. So his feeling is pure, and like it could, like it's in this pure abstract way, but completed it can't exist, and it never has existed, and like there's this complete bullshitness, whatever. Like the whole show is like kind of about like. Part of the show is about like the love between the two brothers.
Idealized, right?
Yeah, idealized love, and like. Yeah, so it's like the symbolic love that doesn't exist anywhere. Like, you can't attain that love. At the end, what you see is that to get to love, to actual love that is happening in the world, you need to remove yourself from symbolic love, to put some of your desire / lust into it, to be able to accomplish love.
Yeah, probably. You need to stop, you need to get real, essentially, like accept the fact that the ideals that the Kappa are pursuing is not a thing, and that like you can't live a healthy life if you are always in denial, like the Kappa, because it creates this whole mess of dark Kappa and the whole antagonist. I think we're on the same page on that.
Okay, last thing that I want to talk about, we can remove it from the show, but from the thing, but like I really want to talk about it, is like at the end, so Tori is trying to remove himself from the world.
So he's tempted by the dark kepi, and he removes himself, like yeah. So he's removed from the connection of society and from society and connection.
Yeah, because he wants to go back to his mother womb. No, but he wants to go back to nothingness, basically.
Oh, that's really cool. And so like during that, he goes into this famous like circles of like no beginning, no connection, no end,
which is actually symbolism, realism, and symbolism.
Yeah, that's the textbook Lacan graph, right? I think there might also be a play on word with the original meaning of yaoi and the whole self-reflection on the Fujoshi culture and the yaoi culture. But that's like completely out of scope in the time we have left. Because yaoi means like no climax, no story, and no end, I think.
Oh.
But, whatever. So maybe he adapted that to fit the Lacan model. Whatever. we could spend more than one episode on this, but maybe we should conclude.
I feel we're missing something, and I can't say what.
I mean, I think I know what you feel. I think it's because it's a very rich anime with a lot of angles you can talk about, and you can't talk about them all in a 30-minute show for first-timers. But for instance, I had a couple of other questions that we can leave for the readers. So we scratched the surface, say, of Sarazanmai, and we probably won't do another episode, but we are very happy to discuss in follow-ups or on Reddit or Twitter or Gmail at NotDailyPodcast at all these things. and to tackle the big questions like what is actually Sarazanmai? What does it mean? Why so many boxes? Why so many bets? Or we can talk about the parallels between the couples or all the patterns and repetition and the break thereof. So anyway, get in touch with us and we will see you next time, but not tomorrow. Bye.